partner updates. So this is an opportunity for you to share what your recent wins are for equitable climate action and resilience. Thank you for recording, Brianne. And so be thinking, if you have some updates, this is a great time to share. We haven't met since August, so this is where you can talk about what you've been doing in your own organizations or neighborhoods or capacities, or what you've heard or learned, anything you want to share with the group. If you have any wins for equitable climate action and resilience, we'd love to hear them. So be thinking about that, and then we'll review where we've been, and then we're going to discuss the elements of the plan and the strategy and subcomponent information that we've been developing since we last met with you. And then we're going to go through kind of an interactive discussion called What's Your Pitch? It's a fun activity that Brianne came up with, and then we'll wrap up. So we're not going to use the full 2 hours. It's been running about an hour and a half so far in the previous 3 meetings with the other pathways. But we'll discuss the updates, related to the planning process, and then we're going to ask for your input on the deliverables, and then ask you to help us create some content and some context for the objectives, some of the language that we need to help to support what we're presenting for adoption. So with that, we're not going to go through the ground rules because we've been doing this for a year now, and you guys are well rehearsed on those. But I would like to hear about your recent wins and what you've been up to, a little bit of a round robin reintroduction. This is a casual bunch, so we'd like to hear your thoughts and updates. Feel free to type them into the Post-its, or just take yourself off mute and speak up.
All right, I'll start. I got native plantings in my front yard. Very excited about it. Reduces water, good for all of our pollinators, etc. Not related to transportation, but that's my sustainability win since we last met.
Awesome, thank you. What's GRTC been up to lately, Carrie?
Sorry, I was trying to find the Post-its, so I was moving slowly.
Yeah, they're on slide 6.
Okay, I found it. I think so it's 2 things that were on my mind, and they're both bus stop related. We just continue to make slow but steady progress toward expanding the at-stop infrastructure. I mean, this will be a forever project, but it's just nice that we've been able to make progress over the past year with installing ADA landing pads, to new benches and shelters all over the system, and specifically targeting parts of the community that had been underinvested in historically. And then RVA Rapid Transit, which is a nonprofit, they have started a Better Bus Stop program where they are inviting community volunteers to adopt a bus stop and help keep it clean. And they've gotten several adopters already. And there's one in particular who is one of our marketing employees took photos of one Sunday, and he goes out there with like a tool belt and a squeegee and all sorts of cleaning equipment, and he's retired. And this is what he does on the weekends when the weather is agreeable. He goes out and cleans the Willow Lawn glass and shelters at on Willow Lawn Drive. So it's just nice and encouraging to see that there are neighbors willing and able to help where we are not logistically able to manage that level of detail. So those are my 2.
Love it. Thank you for sharing. Those are awesome updates.
I actually have one more for GRTC that came to mind in addition to Carrie's.
Great.
So we also are working on a microtransit feasibility study right now. So any reduction in single-use cars is always good for the environment. So, and that study is for the 9 jurisdictions. So Greater Richmond metropolitan area.
Fantastic. Thank you. Yeah, this is the kind of stuff that keeps us going. So thanks for sharing.
I can go next.
Great.
It's been a while since we met, but I'm Brandon King. I'm a program operations supervisor for our Office of Equitable Transit and Mobility. So I manage our bike share program, manage the e-scooter program in the city of Richmond. So what we're working on right now is an expansion of the bike share system as a whole. So we're expanding the outer bounds of it. So we have a new station coming to Chimborazo Park, which will push us out to the east end of the city. Another one under construction in Battery Park, which pushes northward. And over the next 3 months, we'll have 4 or 5 stations going to the south of the river. Forest Hill Park, Blackwell Pool, and Carter Jones Park are coming pretty soon. And I'm also working on some legislation for e-scooters to expand the hours of operation. Currently, they are from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. What we're noticing is a uptick up until that 9 p.m. Hour of ridership. So I think if we can capture probably from that 9 p.m. to 12 a.m., we can save a lot of cars off of the road during those hours because we're meeting that demand.
Fantastic. Thank you, Brandon. Great stuff. Any updates from you, Julie and Dominion? And if not, that's fine.
I'm thinking about it. I know there's a big EV stakeholder group that's statewide. I know is this more, is this only about equity or?
You know, this is just an update on anything that you've been working on since we met last that relates to equitable climate action and resilience. So honestly, you know, doesn't have to even just be transportation if you want to share some Dominion updates.
Let me think about it a little bit. Okay,
or you can just put them on the post-it notes in the slide deck on slide 6. This is where we're trying to capture some updates. You know, this work that we do in this group is we're building up a climate action plan, but in the meantime, tons of projects are going on. And so that's what's keeping us going. And so we'd love to hear what each of you is doing.
Okay.
But yeah. Anyone else have updates? All right, well then we will go ahead and jump ahead to, oh my goodness. Trying to go to the next slide where we've been. So just to kind of remind you, reorient you to the planning process and timeline, we've been compiling all of your feedback and developing the draft strategies and next steps. And so today, what you're going to be talking to us about today is going to inform the plan and the website, the deliverables that we're presenting in the spring for community engagement. So this group will be meeting again over the winter so that staff can show you the draft before it goes out to the public for that comment period. And then once we get through the spring engagement, we'll go back for internal approvals, administrative approvals, and then city council adoption next summer. So that's the timeline where we are. And just to remind you, we've talked through each of these components of our draft structure, and now we are refining all of that content. So thank you so much to every one of you for everything you've done to help get us to this point. What we're doing behind the scenes right now is to further develop each of the strategies with the components that you helped us create. So if you'll remember over the summer, we went through that that spreadsheet, that Google sheet with all of the columns and all of the equitable next steps and the funding and financing brainstorms and potential stakeholders. So refining all of that is what we're doing behind the scenes, and developing this accountability framework so that we can actually make this a a working document that's going to be tangible and helpful, and not just something that is going to sit on someone's desk somewhere. So then the outcomes, just to kind of remind you, at the last meeting, we went through the outcomes, and we are taking those 12 outcomes, and we've been identifying the indicators for each of our outcomes. We have I'm sorry, I'm trying to do this. I'm changing the slide deck. In order to hold ourselves accountable for each of those outcomes, we are identifying measurable indicators that we can report on. So for each outcome, we have at least 2. For example, one of the outcomes most closely related to this pathway is cleaner and more efficient transportation. And so our traditional indicator that we've identified is percent of travel and mode share that is not with a single occupancy, internal combustion engine vehicle. So that is a mouthful, but trying to capture that mode share away from basically solo occupancy cars is what we want to measure as an indicator of success. And then the equity indicator for that outcome will be the percent of population within a 10-minute walk of a fixed route transit stop with amenities by race and ethnicity. So these are all, as we're kind of brainstorming your feedback, all of the potential data points we could be measuring. We're looking at what we can actually measure, what's available now, what kind of methodologies can we develop. And so that's another piece of what we've been doing behind the scenes. So the plan itself. Before I move on, do you have any questions? I just want to check in with everyone. Any questions or comments? We're good? Okay. So where we're going? Well, the plan consists of 2 elements. We have a document and we have an interactive website. And so along the way, as you know, we've been very traditional in some of our methods, and we've also tried to be very innovative. So along those same lines, we're creating a PDF document that's going to be useful for many purposes. It's going to have all the content and all the language that could be helpful for, writing grants or drafting policies or for whatever purpose. We'll have this one PDF document, and then we're also going to have a user-friendly, kind of a faster medium that's innovative and interactive that can be updated on a regular basis. So those are the 2 pieces of the plan that are in the works. And what informs the plan are the research and best practices from other peer cities. We've been looking at lots of other plans. If you got the email earlier this week, there were a whole bunch of hyperlinks in the bottom to other city plans. And if you haven't had a chance to take a look, I mean, there are just tons of plans out there, but those are some of the ones that we like. And if you want to click through some of them and see if there are any elements that really jumped out at you and share those ideas with us, please do. We've gone through them ourselves and pulled out what we thought was really helpful. So that's the research and best practices from peer cities. The roundtable has seen what I'm about to show you, and we've taken their feedback and kind of revised things to make sure that the racial equity and environmental justice roundtable is kind of improving each stage of the way here. And then obviously your input today is going to drive where we go next. All right, so the draft outline, this is what it looks like now at a high level. And there's an opening section that's going to have, the letter from the mayor, and then a land stewardship acknowledgement is just a very respectful way of acknowledging that this is Powhatan land, how it got to us, and how we're continuing that stewardship. Then there's a section that kind of informs how to read this. So it'll have a guide, and it'll have the symbology and the definitions and acronyms and what, how to read this plan. And then there'll also be some information like if you only have 10 minutes, this is what you need to look at. If you're just interested in this neighborhood, this is how you read the plan. Or if you're interested in this topic, this is where you need to go. So we've seen some other cities do this effectively. So we're going to put together that. And then the context is the next section with the background on this plan. And then the process for developing the plan will have a section. And then the plan strategies themselves, that's really the biggest part. Section 11 is Richmond 2030. So that's our action plan with all of the pathways and the objectives and the strategies, and every strategy is going to have its own table. I'm going to show you what that looks like, that mock-up looks like right now. And then the next part is what's next. So, excuse me, the advocacy piece is, what can I do as an individual or as a department or as a neighborhood group? This sounds great, but what can I do? So we'll make sure that, it's a very actionable plan. And then the last section is all that summary stuff. So lessons learned for future city planning. And then those, the appendices is going to have more of the strategy background for more information. There's just so much, so we don't want to completely we don't want to include it in the section 11. That's going to be kind of summarized strategy information, but then all the extra stuff will be in the back. And then the methodologies, so that's going to have how we actually created components like the equity screening tool or the greenhouse gas modeling and the risk assessment, all of those pieces. So that's the plan outline. And before I jump ahead, I just want to check in with you. What are your thoughts? Any reflections on, do you feel like it's missing anything? Do you like it? Is there something that you think is more important than something else?
My only kind of immediate reaction was I like the outline and everything. But do we think we could put the what can I do earlier in the document? Only because I think those are the people that are going to be looking at it online. And I don't know, I haven't read all the sections or the details of all the sections, so I'm not sure if it would fit earlier. But I feel like that's like the early button that they should be able to push.
I like that. That's a great idea.
I love that. And I also wonder if the letter from the mayor can include, if that can be up front, we cannot do this without our residents and our businesses. Here's a link to what you can do, a call to action.
There you go. Call to the action by the mayor. This is how you do it. I like it. Any other feedback on this? Brian, are you capturing that somewhere? Thank you. All right, great ideas. Keep them coming. So next, this is just kind of a mock-up of the pathways. David did a great job of giving us something to react to. This is not final. This is just something that we could look at internally so we could get our heads around this. It will be going out professionally and being developed, the graphics and everything. But in the meantime, I'm going to focus on the transportation pathway. So first, when you go into the pathway, you're going to see a section with the pathway description and what those objectives are. So that's going to be kind of the opening context that will frame the pathway. And it's going to be similar content or the same content, just different layout on the online and PDF versions. And then once you go to the next page, you're going to see the objective overview. And so that's going to have a page with information about the objective, the language itself, what the symbols or the outcomes may end up being more of a table, but it's going to show what of the 12 outcomes, which ones are impacted by this objective and are supported by this objective. And then each objective page will have the strategy language underneath it. Then we go down into the actual strategy itself. So at the top, we'll have the what you see in Latin is all the kind of context information that'll have data or maps and research to show why this strategy is important. And then, what does the decision maker need to implement this strategy? What do they need to know? And then the subcomponents on the left, so where it says actions to be completed by 2030, just to reorient you to all of this. So originally, we had like 188 strategies, and went through that whole prioritization process and ended up, we were able to table some, but we also rolled up the ones that were a little more specific, actionable, but could be rolled up under some overarching strategy language. So in terms of subcomponents, that's the word we had been using. Those are now called actions. So on that first column, you see actions to be completed by 2030. Those are what were formerly subcomponents. And then the status is each of these actions are either ongoing, ready to go, or facing obstacles. And then the city steward is going to be, it's not always going to be the Office of Equitable Transit and Mobility. And obviously we need to talk to Brandon and make sure that that team is good with this. But basically the Office of Sustainability is, we're the champions. We are managing and tracking and collaborating and coordinating as much as we humanly can. But most of the strategies are actually going to be implemented by a different department. So we need to be working with them to identify the appropriate departments, and that will then be listed as the city steward. So this is just a mock-up. This is just kind of what we're, just an example. And then the cost is a range. So that's going to be the total dollars between now and 2030 to implement this strategy. It's just a very elementary estimated dollar. When we're kind of looking at other cities and doing our own research, they're just in ranges. So if it's under 100,000, it might be $1 sign. If it's up to $1 million, maybe it's 2. If it's more than $1 million, maybe it's 3. We're not quite sure. Once we have some volunteers helping with this. If any of you are interested in helping with this task, we would really appreciate your help. Just to kind of get some ballpark estimates so that we can pin down those ranges of what those dollar signs mean. It's just to kind of for comparison purposes. And then the time frame is near and far. We've gone around and around on that, but basically the near is what's being budgeted right now. We need to start planning and budgeting now, so it's near term, and then might be the next 5 years would be 2026 to 2030. So that's what we're calling FAR. And then those 3 columns of impacts, you've seen those symbols before. That's demonstrating the greenhouse gas reductions, whether it's high, medium, or low impacts, the climate resilience elements, and then the equity community priorities. So that's what the strategy page, those are the elements of it. Like I said, this is just a draft mock-up. This is going out for kind of a professional design and review. But in the meantime, this is something for us to react to. And up in the top right corner, you see that square with the additional information that's going to go into the appendix that I alluded to earlier. That's where we'll have those equitable next steps and the funding and financing maps with those brainstorm ideas and just some of the more specific details that will be important to the implementers. We wanted to make sure that's captured somewhere accessible, but not necessarily, it's going to be a 1,000-page document if we put all of this in the middle of it. So let me pause there and just ask you, I'll leave this page up, but wanted to see if you had any thoughts on, what information you think is most important or relevant to you. Is anything missing? Do you have any design or format recommendations to best communicate this information? Just kind of wanted to open it up for conversation.
So, a couple of my thoughts. I know I see the TM-2.3 and I can see why that's important, but to most people, that's just kind of a moniker or like a nomenclature that doesn't mean anything to them, right?
Yeah,
Or did
transportation.
you guys want to continue to have that?
Well, you mean like
Um,
rename the strategies?
Well, I don't like amongst, internal, I wouldn't necessarily rename the strategies. It's just like TM 2.3 doesn't really mean anything. I think transportation and mobility is the right thing, right?
So just spell it out in the name.
Yeah, well, you have it. I don't know. Maybe it's like, I'm just saying, like, maybe you need to simplify it. Like TM 2.3, maybe it's like priority 1, priority 2, priority 3, something more tangible.
Huh.
I feel you because you already have the transportation mobility up top in the header. And that does
Yeah.
seem a little obscure. I would say if you just dropped 2.3 residential mobility in complete streets, it might be a little more streamlined. That's a good point.
Yeah.
And nobody
And
gets
then the other thing I was going to ask,
reading it.
yeah, the thing is Richmond Connects, is that a citywide plan? Is there somewhere you can link to that already on the richmond.gov website?
Can someone else speak to that? I know we have some other experts in the room.
Well, it's a citywide plan.
But like, if I want to know what that plan was, could I click on something? Does it pass the equity or?
So Path to Equity is still under development in our office, so it's not a complete plan yet, but it will be a citywide plan.
Okay.
But are you suggesting that we need to have a hyperlink to that since we're mentioning it here? It needs to be accessible from here.
Yes, I think so. Because it's like you're basically encapsulating a bunch of things in this alignment with Richmond Connects, and I don't know what Richmond Connects is.
Right. Got it.
Because it would be cool. Like I think I'd probably click on that link and be like, I wonder if there's a bike path in development near my house or where I'm going to be buying a house, Is that plan available that I could make decisions on or use it or, be an advocate for?
Yeah, I mean, there's probably a number of different plans. And I wonder if there's just a resource page or something, maybe in the beginning of the transportation and mobility section that talks about, like there is a bike master plan.
It's a great idea. I like that. Any other thoughts? All right, so on slide 24, it's a note page for you to type ideas into. If you think of something later or while I'm talking, if you come up with other ideas, feel free to click on 24 and add another bullet. So I'm going to go ahead and move on and talk about this. Need your help. Why is this so important? So this is great. We've been doing great work, thinking very deeply. We are very passionate about this. Everyone is here because this is important to you and us and our community. but we need to get it adopted. We need to explain to others why this is important. So that language on those strategy pages that was in Latin, we need help developing that context. And so on the plan outline, you'll remember there was a section that said, why now and what's the cost of inaction? We need you to help us think that through. So, yeah, so this part up here is what I'm talking about. For each of these strategies, we want to be thinking, why is this so important? If we don't do this strategy, how is it gonna hurt us, or what's the outcome of doing nothing? So we're gonna do something fun that Brianne came up with, and we're gonna pretend like we are going up in front of City Council. And you have 3 minutes per objective, but this is what it looks like. And we are trying to explain to all of these people why they need to adopt this plan, and why these objectives are important to all Richmonders. And we're all in this together, right? It's this community-owned plan. So the way it's going to work is we will have 3 minutes, and we'll do this together as a group. We'll just call it out, or you can click on the sticky note yourself and write in it. But the first objective, we're going to do this 3 minutes per objective. So the first one is achieve climate neutrality in municipal fleet operations and increase resilience and stewardship of the transportation infrastructure. So in that objective, if you have this slide deck open, maybe I can show you. These are the strategies. So the first one is transportation demand management, support commute alternatives for city employees. The second one is municipal connectivity and complete streets. So steward the city's better streets policy and prioritize connections. And then the municipal fleet electrification and climate resilience infrastructure. And that gets at developing a climate resiliency plan for all transportation infrastructure. Prioritizing projects using Envision and the Climate Equity Index. So the questions, again, why is this important and what's the cost of inaction? Going up in front of City Council or any stakeholder group or decision-making body and explaining to them why this objective is important. And I'm going to click go, and you can either call it out or type it in. All right, halfway there. All right, 15 seconds. Get your last thought out. You guys are quiet. All right, time's up. So that's fun. You guys gave us some really good language to use, and I really appreciate that. This morning in the waste group, we had a couple of community activists who regularly go up in front of council, so they were on their soapbox, and it was fun. But this is great. Really, really grateful for your input here. Okay, so the next objective is number 2. Create vibrant neighborhoods where all residents can easily ride transit, walk, or bike to meet daily needs in alignment with Richmond Connects. And those 3 strategies are a resilient bus transit system with, improving and expanding bus routes, stops, and bike share options. And then the second one is integrated connectivity with shared use and green biking and walking paths. And then the third one is residential mobility and complete streets, promote the stewardship of safely walkable and bikeable neighborhoods that connect everything beautifully. Okay, so here you go. Timer's starting. You have 3 minutes on your soapbox. Why is this important? And what is the cost of inaction if we do nothing? What is the cost to Richmonders?
I should have set this up with some Jeopardy music or something.
Final countdown.
Mm-hmm.
And if anyone just wants to brainstorm out loud, feel free to speak up. Halfway through. I like that. Public transportation connects people to each other. That came up a lot in the impact mapping that we did in July. That, bringing together that social cohesion seemed to be really important to everybody. All right, 30 seconds. Get your thoughts down. Ten seconds. All right, thank you very much. We will move on to objective number 3. And that one is the transition the community rapidly and equitably to clean fuel vehicles and transit. So those 2 strategies are private and commercial vehicle electrification, and then developing the charging infrastructure. So I'm going to start the timer, and the questions are, why is that important now? And what is the cost of inaction? 2 more minutes. Julie, you should be coming up with some good language here for us. Halfway. Last minute. All right, 20 seconds, get your last thoughts down. Trying to find some music for us, Brienne. All right. Last one. Thank you guys for going through this. This is really helpful. I'm seeing what you're writing and it's great. Oh, that was it. That was the last one. We only have 3 in transportation. I forgot. All the rest have 4. Okay, adopted unanimously. We're good to go. All this is going to get funded and everyone's going to be prioritizing our work. Good stuff. All right. So we actually finished up early. We had a small group today. I'm sorry that everyone else couldn't join us. We're not going to be meeting again until February with the draft plan. But if you do want to be more involved behind the scenes, please let us know. There is plenty to do. For you, those of you who weren't here at the August meeting, Kendra Norrell, who was our community engagement coordinator, and Wendy Fuster both moved on. So we are tight on resources and capacity, and we are grateful for all the help we can get. Luckily, we still have David Sale, who's been interning with us for a year now. He's wrapping up his master's program right now, but we have him for the time being, so we're really grateful. The survey link is in the chat for today's meeting, and then also the volunteer survey is accessible through the link in the chat, the second link. So at this point, we're done. Yeah, really finished early, but if you have any updates or want to share anything with the rest of the group, this is your time. Otherwise, I will bid you adieu and have a great day.
Particularly if there's anything we can add to our December newsletter, which will go out in a couple weeks. So if y'all have events or anything coming up, please let us know either now or just shoot Dawn or me an email.
Yeah, thanks for saying that, Brianne. I should let you all know we've come up with a new outreach strategy to kind of highlight an outcome each month. So during the month of November, it's reduced landfill waste. So we have lots of waste kind of tips and things. And then next month, it's going to be air quality. So, especially any work that you all do around air quality, any events, any blog posts, information, links you want to share, please send them our way. All right. Well, thank you so much, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.